Hello.
What is happening, people?
As you can see, few technical hiccups means that we don't have Nick's face. We don't have Nick's face this evening.
Oh,
we just have that deep voice.
My camera's not working. So yeah, you've had to have the better version of our logo. So cool. So we're gonna do a review of the Snyder Cut or Zack Snyders Justice League trailer.
I'm really having to kind of like get used to referring to it as Zack Snyders Justice League, because that's how it's kind of like is now, isn't it? Rather than so that we've known it as the Snyder Cut for God knows how long.
I know.
And now for some reason they've changed it to Zack Snyders Justice League. I don't understand.
I know.
I'm not too sure why. The Snyder Cut sounds better to me. But yeah, so not that it really matters. I think most people are going to refer to it as this is Snyder Cut anyway, aren't they? So,
Alex, I am wearing Joker makeup,
full get up
behind the avatar.
Full get up. The problem is we just can't see him. So
Thanks for joining us. Everyone can see in the chat. Really appreciate you coming on. I know this is not our normal sort of live that we do, so appreciate you coming in. So yeah, it's just a breakdown of the trailer. So if you want to join in and chirp in, then yeah.
So the format's going to be is we're going to get the trailer on screen. We'll watch a little bit of it, go over what we think about it, have any thoughts, opinions, and stuff like that, and basically just go through the entire trailer. That's just how it's going to be, and that's kind of like the only topic that we're really going to be discussing this evening. So we're probably not going to be on as long as we are used to, because we're usually on talking about lots of different things, but it's just solely on this. So it could be half an hour, it could be an hour. It depends on how much we really want to talk about it. So yeah. Should we get into it?
Let's crack on,
dude. I've watched this trailer like so many times now.
I know.
Let's do it.
Let's do this.
Are you right? I suppose it's just for kind of more. Are you gonna pause? Are we just gonna just pick and choose when you want to pause it? You just want to pause it whenever you want.
Yeah. Let's just pause it.
Freeballing it. We'll just freeball it.
Freestyle that shit.
Yeah. Let's go.
So we need to pause it here, don't we?
I think we do.
Yeah.
How are you liking that?
So,
I was confused by it to start off with, because I was like, when I first saw it, I was seeing those beams, and I was like, okay, what's this getting at? And obviously, it's right at the end of the BVS. And
can we get a pic of Cavill up?
Yeah, man.
Put it back a little bit. There we go. So I think first off, I'm guessing this is going to be the start of the film.
I think if it's not, it'd be crazy.
Yeah, I think what will be different from the horrendous start of the other Justice League is that this is a sort of continuation of BVS.
Yeah,
which I felt like there was none with the Justice League.
Yeah, it was the start of the theatrical cut of Justice League was very much just like that montage of just in your face. It just looks like let's try and get as many kind of like, it felt to me like there was a lot of kind of like heavy political connotations within the start of Justice League as well, trying to get kind of like the world going into chaos. I think someone was even wearing kind of like a Make America Great Again kind of like hat or a vest or something. So they tried to make it quite like current affairs rather than speaking to what it should be, which is just the end of Batman versus Superman.
And you've got that horrible mobile footage.
Yeah, I mean, with Justice Man. Justice Man. No, yeah, with the horrendous CGI, which we're not going to get any of in this film, which is fucking.
And how you start off a film with that CGI is God knows who made that decision.
Beyond me. But I think as well, looking at this, so you can see right there, obviously he's screaming in pain, and it's that like his dying breath. Oh, spoilers, by the way, for anyone that's not seen Batman versus Superman. I think we should put it out there. This is the end of Batman versus Superman. So if you haven't seen it, well, now you have. But so you can see right there's a massive gaping hole in that suit, right in his chest, where he obviously gets pierced at the end of BVS. And it also, that kind of then relates into later on. Obviously, you got the black Superman suit. You know, you've not got your Superman suit there anymore, have you? It's kind of ripped. It's been torn. So it also kind of lends into the black Superman suit, which just wasn't really discussed or mentioned in the theatrical version. So,
do you think he's having
a
bit of an arousal after seeing Andy Hughes?
No, I think so. I mean, who wouldn't? Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
All right, let's
absolutely.
Let's crack on.
The bell's been rung.
Ding ding.
I thought this bit was cool.
Yeah. We'll get to a certain point and I'll pause it.
Among the stars. The god is dead.
Yeah. So I really like the way that's kind of lent into how the story kind of progresses, because obviously with Superman dying and his last kind of like scream has kind of like gone out towards, well, it's gone outwards everywhere. So it's hitting what would assume, I mean, obviously there's a bit of editing going on here, but it's hit Themyscira. I obviously don't believe that the scream has brought down that temple. Obviously, like I said, there's a lot of editing going on, but what they're trying to showcase here is the scream has such a reach that it's affecting everyone in every place. And it's not just kind of like in Metropolis or Gotham or wherever it is. This is a huge scream that can be heard throughout galaxies and universes, which is why you then get, you know, the likes of Steppenwolf and the likes of Darkseid going kind of like, okay, well, he's gone. It's now time. It's time to invade.
I think
so it makes more sense.
You know, the first trailer where you can hear Steppenwolf saying no lanterns,
no
Kryptonians. So that they think that Earth is probably going to be an easy target because there's no sort of gods.
Yeah, and it makes more sense this way if that's the way that you're kind of going into it. It's kind of like, hey, here's why we know that Superman is no longer alive, because we've all heard this, rather than just he's dead and apparently everyone else in the universe knows it. Because we didn't really get that. You don't get that in the theatrical trailer, do you? You get the fact that he's gone in the opening montage, and then you just get Batman finding a parademon, and apparently they just know that he's gone, and there's no real kind of explanation of it. So I think with the fact that this is also going to be a 4-hour-long movie, there's going to be so much chance. There's going to be so many different opportunities to flesh out all those kind of like just taken for granted bits, which I'm going to really enjoy, because a lot of the stuff in most movies, to be fair, when you cut out a lot of stuff, I mean, BVS is a perfect example of it. The theatrical cut that we got of it, the 2.5 hour long movie, didn't really make much sense. But then you released the Ultimate Edition, which was the additional 30 minutes. It made a hell of a lot more sense because it fleshed out certain moments that it needed to. And I think that that's what you're going to get a lot of in this, that is going to make a lot more sense. And the fact that you're going to see a lot of stuff that was just completely abandoned because reasons, God knows what reasons, but was completely abandoned.
Mark, thanks for joining us, mate. So Andy says, why didn't Darkseid attack before Superman arrived on Earth when he was a baby? Good question.
Good question.
Maybe Snyder may answer it for you. You'll have to see.
I mean, I doubt that he's going to answer that, but I suppose you're just getting into, you know, I have no idea. I have no idea. Maybe he's still strong. He was still a strong kid. You saw him Man of Steel, man. He saved the people on the bus.
Damn right.
So maybe he could have just found the strength. But God knows. I don't know, Andy.
We will see, Andy. Don't go too deep on us now.
Yeah. We're just reviewing a trailer here. Like, give me a break.
This scene here, do you think this is after Steppenwolf's bin?
Yeah, for
and they're
sure.
getting rid of the
For
mother
sure.
box
Yeah,
area?
so I think that the mother box was in there. And after Steppenwolf has kind of come in and, done his thing, we all know what happens. He's going to come in, he's going to get the mother
everyone.
box, he's going to destroy, flex his muscles, and then do one. And I think that this is going to be a result of the carnage that ensues when he comes down and steals the mother box from Themyscira. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's definitely not going to fall because Superman shouted. I think, like I said, it's that's a bit of tricky editing.
Yeah, it's after the carnage.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go.
I had a dream.
Oh, pause it there.
Right, okay. Let's just quickly nip back to that. So it literally throws us right in to nightmare mode. Right, okay. What's your thoughts? What's your thoughts here, Nick? How influential do you think this part of the movie is going to be?
I think it will be. I think for me, it's again tying in with BVS. So it's going to give a bit more context as to why Flash randomly turned up in the middle of BVS, and why was Batman having that sort of dream. So I think it's going to give us more context from that point of view, and that's what I was expecting in the original one. And when there wasn't much touched upon it, I was like, okay. Well, I heard you talking about it in the trailer.
There was nothing about it really, was there?
No. And I think this visually looks really nice.
Yeah, but like you said, it ties in very, very well with the continuity from BVS, and I think that's what I think most people were kind of a little bit upset that it didn't have that in the original, simply because you've got Zack Snyder that has a very, very clear outline of what he wants to portray in these movies. He knows what he wants and he goes after it. Like, I think he said many, many times that whatever I storyboard, I film. Like, that it happens. So he's got a very clear idea of what he wants. And when you get someone then jumping in and giving their own spin on it, it's never going to be as the continuity is just not going to be there. As much as you want to try and make it aesthetically look right or thematically look right, it's never going to be the same as what he originally, the idea that he had, because only he has, well, not only he has that idea, obviously it comes from a lot of places, but he is a driving influence on that idea. And it's only him that could make the continuity work from BVS to this in the way that it's going to, which makes me fill up with joy, because when you watch BVS and you see that nightmare scene and you see the potential that has in terms of where things can go, how things can change, what stories that they can use, it's really, really exciting as a DC fan, as a Justice League fan, as any of these characters, as any of their fans, or anyone that knows the kind of storyline that they're trying to portray here. It's a really, really quite exciting thing that they could be diving more into it, and it could mean that it could veer off into a lot of different ways. And that's what I'm really excited about. Whether or not, I mean, Snyder's actually come out and said this at the end of it, hasn't he? He said that I'm literally giving it how it was supposed to be given. Things have come out since, Justice League have come out, and the storyline of that he originally imagined is not going to be the storyline that ends up now, because things have changed, because the original the theatrical version wasn't his release. So he's basically said, I'm going to put it out how it's supposed to be put out, and that's what it is. So I think the likelihood of things following on from here, in terms of additional stuff from a DCEU from a movie perspective, is going to be very slim to none. Whether or not you're going to get TV shows, and whether HBO are going to, respond well to it, or whether or not it's going to make as much money. I think it will make money regardless.
I think it won't be a sort of purposeful sort of open-ended to where you think, okay, there's going to be a sequel, but I think there'll be hints and nods to where you could go, actually that can follow on to something else.
And I think that, and that's what, like I said, that's what's quite exciting, because this storyline here lends itself into a lot of interesting, material that they can go for in different aspects in different ways. And especially as they've brought, as we'll see later on in the trailer, obviously the introduction of the Joker within the nightmare scene as well. Makes for really, really interesting, a really interesting material going forward, especially where Batman is concerned. Obviously, Joker, and you can't really have Joker without Batman, really. So they're integral. But I think it lends into some really, really kind of like interesting material that could be prized from this going forward.
Yeah, with what Andy's put there, what I'm intrigued about is, in this film, Superman is going to have the black suit, but then you've got him with the red and blue suit in the nightmare sequence in BVS. So whether that's sort of his sort of alternative, thinking he's in the blue and red suit, or will he actually be in the black suit in the nightmare scene?
No, I think that is because we've seen, I think from a, if I'm taking Batman versus Superman as my anchor, which I think you should, that he had the nightmare of Superman, you know, like chopping those people in half and unmasking him and stuff like that, hasn't he? And he was in the blue and red suit then. I think to answer Andy's question, I think it's going to be a combination of the two. So what I think you're going to get is, in this nightmare scene, which is almost kind of like a premonition of things to come should shit hit the fan. I think what it will be is the invasion of Darkseid and Superman being bad. So things where they're saying like Lois is the key, and I don't want. I'm very, very cautious about going into kind of like spoiler territory from a kind of like an Injustice storyline perspective, because if people don't know what the Injustice kind of like story plot is, then they might kind of get a welcome surprise if that's what this is all about. But that kind of like dives into why Superman would turn evil, or not maybe evil, but he, you know, go kind of like the opposite of what Superman stands for. So I think it probably could be a combination of the two, which lends into the fact why you've got Batman and Joker seemingly working together. You know, enemies, like mortal enemies, seem to be working together to try and you know, destroy both. Well, or let's say destroy, but get on top of the situation of both Darkseid invading and making Earth into apocalypse, and then you've got kind of like Superman potentially running the show for him. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to tie that in, but I do think it will be a combination of the two.
Yeah. Cool.
Let's go a bit further then.
I had a dream.
Yeah. Just before, it looks amazing though, doesn't it?
It does. Zack, regardless of what you think of Snyder, he will always bring the visuals.
Yeah.
Whether the story's pants or not, visually it will always be sexy.
Yeah.
Almost like a premonition. I think there's an attack coming.
Oh, pause that shit.
Oh, look at that bad boy. Right, okay.
Go back to that hallway bit where he's walking down. So,
I think I know what you're going to ask.
Do you think he's seen something at the back of that place? Either I watched a video, someone saying they could potentially see Superman flying in the back, midair, or there's something at the back where he's walking down and he's pissed off and he wants to see what's cracking off. I'm
not sure. I didn't think that's what you were going to ask me, so I don't know. I mean, it very well could be, and that could tie into the whole kind of like aspect of it being the invasion of Darkseid, and you know, him kind of like ruling Earth, and kind of like Superman is now enforcer, or kind of like, you know, go-to guy. I don't know, but that could be a theory. I do think that this is the same kind of like nightmare scene because of the background. So I don't think that this is kind of like on another world. I do think that this is part of the nightmare scene. But one theory that I've seen on kind of like looking into the breakdowns and stuff like that is that, do you potentially think that this could be the Hall of Justice?
No,
Do you
definitely not. No.
Do you not think that could be like a broken down
Wayne
Manor
with all the windows and stuff.
Yeah, I
No,
think it could be.
It could be, but I think this is part of the nightmare sequence.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It'll be the nightmare sequence, but within the nightmare sequence, that kind of like Darkseid has taken over Wayne Manor, and that's kind of like a base of operations for him, as a bit of a kind of a fuck you to those that would be kind of like protesters against him, because Batman would be leading that rebellion.
Could be, but I think Darkseid won't give a shit about Batman, even though he's a focus on it. I think Darkseid's too powerful to go, right, I'm going to go take over Batman's house and show him who's boss.
Yeah, I mean, again, though,
I think that's just a place for Darkseid. I think
again, though, it looks so good. Like, it looks really, really good.
This was a scene where, when it came up in the trailer, I was like, that looks fucking nice.
Yeah,
and then it sort of expands the epicness of it.
Yeah, and then with the close up here of, you know, the trifecta there, I don't think you're gonna get. And this is the kind of like the argument I'm tossing up in my head here, is how long this nightmare sequence is going to last, because you've got 4 hours, and you've got, we know what the plot of the movie is, because the basic plot is going, I assume the basic plot is going to be the same as the version that we got, right?
Yeah,
I can't see that changing, that kind of like the basic plot. So, you know, kind of like main plot points, you know, potentially beginning, middle, and end. So how long this nightmare sequence is going to be, I'm not too sure, because if it's going to be, like, say, like an hour of the 3, that lends it to kind of like loads of rich material. You can really get into the ins and outs of what this world's going to look like should they fail, and that's kind of like, it's like it's a real kind of like constant in your memory, kind of to say, shit, that's what we need to prevent at all costs. So it makes the rest of the movie kind of so much more important. But at the same time, there is a lot more material that I know is going to be dived into, kind of like normal story wise. So, I mean, how long do you think this is going to be?
I don't know, because I'm unsure whether this will be just Darkseid on Apocalypse, and him just sort of doing his own thing, ready to sort of come down, and he's hearing what Steppenwolf's doing.
So you think it might just be a bit of editing trickery?
Yeah, so it may look like it's part of the nightmare sequence, but I think it will be just a scene where it takes it to Apocalypse and just showing you what's actually going on, and him sort of instructing Steppenwolf to fucking sort shit out.
What do you think of the aesthetic of Darkseid here with the armor?
Yeah, I think he looks good. I think he obviously looks hench.
He looks war ready, doesn't he?
Lifting some dumbbells.
Yeah,
like BC said, doesn't skip arm day. Definitely,
that guy does not skip arm day.
But I think also, if you look in the back, you've got that cloth where it's got his sort of symbolism.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
the Omega sign,
where they hit the floor with the axe and what have you.
Yeah. And I think you're going to get multiple versions of Darkseid in this, because you do get the, you know, when they explain about the previous invasion. So I think you're going to get to see Darkseid in like various stages of his power. So this looks like, to me, like the height of Darkseid's power, where you've got his, you know, enforcers behind him. You've got these parademons there. He looks like the dog's bollocks in terms of like, I am the superpower of all the universe here.
Yeah.
But you're also going to see, and we saw this when it was at DC Fandom, when they released the Justice League trailer there, and you saw Darkseid kind of like with, you saw that Omega sign, but it was more kind of like an organic Omega sign. It was kind of like built into his actual chest, rather than just on the armor plating. So I think that's more of an earlier version of Darkseid, kind of like moving up through kind of like, I wouldn't say the ranks, but I would say more in terms of his ambition in terms of power. And you're going to see him kind of going, this is how I used to do it, and this is what I've now become. So this is kind of like the Mac Daddy of Darkseid
And
if that makes sense.
And if you think about like sequels or whatever, again, this is a good point of reference to say he's got some enforcers behind him. If you wanted to do a sort of spin-off with the Granny character or Deathstroke, you've already got something there, but not necessarily
it's introducing more characters, isn't it? And that's the really interesting thing about this, because not many people that don't know, like people that your average kind of like DC watcher won't know about Deathstroke or Granny Goodness at all. So it's a good opportunity to kind of like explore into like who those characters are, what they're about, and to see whether or not you get kind of like audience reaction from them, because whilst they might not be prominent figures in this movie, they ain't messing around. Like they are not messing around. Even those two behind Big Daddy here, like they're not messing around. They're right-hand men and women for a reason. So it'll be nice to see whether or not you get more of that as well. But let's not mistake it. 4 hours is a long time. 4 hours is half the shift at work. Like it's a long time for one movie. So there is a lot of time to be able to explore a lot of places. So I wouldn't be surprised if everything that we're saying, I mean, I'd be surprised if we got it all right, of course, but I wouldn't be surprised if the things that we're saying, I hope he dives into this, or I hope they dive more into that. I wouldn't be surprised at all if it's done, all of it is done, because there's so much time to be able to do it. I mean, the theatrical cut was 2 hours in total. Yeah. And that's including the credits, I think. So there's a lot more. It's almost twice. Well, I say almost twice as long. It's over twice as long as the theatrical.
Another movie, isn't it?
It's exactly.
Like two or three movies in one.
So we're gonna get a lot. We're gonna get a lot, and I'm fucking pumped. Right, let's
Hillary,
Hills, how's it going?
Brandon,
right,
Ravi. Damn right, Ravi. You know the story.
Right, let's go.
My lord, this world will fall.
Oh, stop that bit. Go back. Wait a second. Yeah, go back to Steppenwolf.
Boom. I need
right. So there you get a first real look at Steppenwolf, the updated, brand new version of Steppenwolf. Let me just find a good still of it.
Yeah, that's the one I want to go over.
What's going on here then?
So, do you think that this is a hologram?
What I think this is the Unity. So we saw a version of this in the theatrical cut where they're in that kind of like Chernobyl kind of knockoff place, and this is the place where Steppenwolf is putting the mother boxes in, and I think what this is when he's connected all three of the mother boxes, and it's allowing what looks like Darkseid there. It could be someone else.
It might be Deathstroke.
It could be, it was one of the two, but it allows them to kind of like speak to them. So that kind of pillar right there is where Steppenwolf is putting the mother boxes in.
What do you think all that shit is dripping?
I just think it's more of kind of like a interstellar kind of like I think it's just more just fanciness more than anything, kind of like he's bleeding out of the pillar. Yeah. If that so it's kind of like sparking, and it's just, I think that's all it is he comes out of the pillar to talk, and it kind of like bleeds out the pillar and creates fire and sparks and stuff like that. That's what I think anyway, and I think it's just a way of communicating in a way that we didn't see in the theatrical version, because it was more just, I'm doing this for Darkseid and I know why I'm doing it, whereas now you'll probably get a little bit more context around what he's being told and how he reacts to kind of like the power, because in the theatrical version Steppenwolf seemed to be the big bad, when we know that he's not. He's just a pawn in Darkseid's army. So it's this, I think you're going to get a little bit more interaction between the two to kind of see how Steppenwolf reacts to kind of like his boss, essentially.
I think what I like as well is where he's sort of de-armoring as he's talking to him, so you can see his armor going down. So I don't know whether that is
That looks cool as shit as well, by the way.
I don't know if that's a case of he's being de-armored because he's failed at his mission or whatever, or whether it's a sort of sign of respect that he has to sort of reveal himself.
Yeah. How do we think about the look of Steppenwolf here? It's very, very different to what we got before.
Again, it matches what BVS's look was like on the sort of extended version, where Luthor's talking to him.
It's that hologram kind of thing.
Yeah. So exact same look. So that was another thing that baffled me with the original release, was that Steppenwolf looked totally different.
Mate, he looked like just a grown-up version of Dobby from Harry Potter. I don't understand like the creative choice to change him so much here. Like, one of the cool things I like about this though is that obviously you've got with the theatrical version, when Steppenwolf was in his armor, he had this kind of like weird kind of like kilt armor, which is very, very strange. Yeah, it was very, very strange. But then this like war helmet that he had on with those two kind of like horns that he's got there, obviously weren't actually part of his head.
Yeah,
it was just like it was just a a helmet, but
like a Viking hat.
But what this armor and this aesthetic is showing you, that this armor almost kind of feels like it's like a bio-organic kind of armor that is clinging to his skin, or maybe kind of like develops from his skin, kind of like Tony Stark in Marvel, and like the suit just comes out and it's almost kind of like the bleeding edge suit. So it's I think this is more kind of like a bio-organic kind of armor that kind of like just develops. So it's not something that you would put on is like an extra jacket or something like that. It's just something that he can like command at will. Yeah, so it's kind of like his skin almost kind of like reacts to the environment around it to create armor. If that makes sense, rather than kind of like putting armor on. So you can't knock your helmet off because the armor is part of his skin, which makes sense why his head would be shaped that way, because that's how his helmet looks. Well, helmet looks, but actually it's just part of his skin, which I think looks quite... I mean, if I'm right, that would be fucking awesome. But again, Steppenwolf ain't skipping any gym days there. I mean, look at the size of them traps. Like, they're insane. But I really, really like this aesthetic, because it looks... I think a lot of this looks more grown up. It sounds weird to say about a comic book movie, but this looks a lot more grown up, whereas I think the theatrical version was kind of like brightened. It was dull. I say dulled down. It was brightened in terms of it looked more colourful, and it was toned down in terms of kind of like the horror-y aspect of it, because I don't know why it was done that way, because I mean, it seems
there was already a clip of Morph chopping off some Amazonian heads, so he's definitely not going to be toned down.
No,
in this one.
Let's keep going. Let's see Steppenwolf lay the beat down.
This world will fall. I need warriors. I'm building an alliance to defend.
Okay, so you see. What was a question? There was about the bit about Wonder Woman. So at the start of the last movie here, Wonder Woman threw that bomb up in the air and it exploded in the air.
Yeah.
It looks like here there's an explosion inside that building. Do you think that she fails this time?
Yeah, so I think that's what I've read, is that she sort of gets gutted that she fails to stop a second bomb. So I think there's some sort of I think she saves some people, but then there's a second bomb. So I think she sort of ponders in terms of, if I hadn't got to that, how many people would have died from the back of it.
It like appeals more to the humanity behind her, rather than just kind of like the superhero there. The fact that they can fail.
Yeah, you're not going to get Wonder Woman in this one holding someone, giving them a cheeky wink.
No, it's going to be very, very different.
Yeah, I think she's going to be more of that picture that Zack Snyder's got in his house, where she's holding them three heads. Yeah, more of a warrior type of Wonder Woman,
than a trophy like that she's been kind of like portrayed in the last one. Yeah.
Rather than
how she needs to be portrayed, essentially. She needs to be portrayed as a warrior rather than Right, let's keep going.
I'm building an alliance to defend ourselves.
How do you know your team's strong enough? If you can't bring down the charging bull, then don't wave the red cape at it.
So Cyborg, obviously he's in that nightmare sequence.
Mm-hmm.
And he's pulling out all the gadgets. He's got a big ass cannon on his shoulder.
Yeah, so this is definitely the nightmare sequence, isn't it? The background and everything definitely lends to the fact that this is not kind of like normal day. This is part of the. I mean, how do you think he gets there?
I don't know.
Just kind of just part of his subconscious.
Potentially, you can see he's got like another arm in the back there. Look,
it's holding on to something, isn't it? It's like a bag or something like that.
Arm. So I think he's going to have the four. I think he looks better in this. I don't know if he's changed the armor, but I think he looks better. And I think he's going to have a little bit more to do than what he did in the last one. I think, as Snyder said, he's a bit more of the heart of this film.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a lot more to do in this version. Because he was just kind of like just there, really, wasn't he? In the theatrical trailer, in the theatrical cut, which is a bit, it's heartbreaking, really, because you could do a lot with Cyborg. You could do a lot with Cyborg, and especially that those that don't know about Cyborg, it was a perfect opportunity to really kind of like really get into that character and flesh out kind of like a little bit more about him, so you can kind of get on board with him a little bit more, and they just missed that opportunity. There is a line that Alfred says there about the raging bull and the red cape. Whilst it's a very cheesy line, I do quite like the editing at play there, where you've literally got Steppenwolf literally charging like a bull, and then it shows kind of like Superman's red cape. I think it's a cheesy line, but it looks quite nice.
It's an Alfred line. Come on,
of course it is. And then you've got all the kind of like fighting that we have seen. I think a lot of this kind of like little montage here of all the battle. We've seen a lot of this in the theatrical cut, but in different kind of settings, because I think that they've kind of like changed kind of like the red skies and stuff like that and just like aesthetically. But I think a lot of this kind of little sequence that I've just paused and went back from, we've seen quite a lot of in the original cut.
Bend ourselves.
How do you know your team's strong enough? If you can't bring down the charging bull, then don't wave the red cape at
it. You were sent here for
this
a reason.
bit. Pause here. So I did like hearing the Kevin Costner line, and then it going to a sort of mimicking the sort of Man of Steel scene. So it's like the flight scene 2.0.
Yeah.
So you got Costner here talking about him sort of being himself or something along them lines. No matter how long it takes, and then it goes into sort of the flight sequence of Man of Steel. So I really like that sort of voiceover aspect.
And this is the other bit that I was talking about earlier on. So this is the shot that we got from DC Fandom, where he hits the ground and everything changes. But he's not wearing any armor. He kind of looks a little less kind of. I mean, he looks still badass, but I feel like this is probably kind of like earlier Darkseid.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you've got two different versions of Darkseid in this movie, which is nice to know. And then, like you said, and then here as well. So you've got Cyborg in this shot seems to be, well, he's not obviously a cyborg. He's no robot there at all, but he does seem to be controlling some stuff here. So what do you think this is all about?
I don't know. I don't know if there's
an accompanying shot. I don't think it's in this trailer, but is in a different shot or a different TV spot where he is kind of pushing away a load of missiles and nukes
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But he's definitely not Cyborg here. Because
So
he's
I don't
not.
know if this is a sort of premonition again or a vision, or if he's seeing something in the future to do with Flash.
Yeah.
So whether this is where Flash is doing something and he's part of that, but he's just sort of sifting through everything with his AI. But yeah, I'm not sure here because there's a flashback with him where he's walking through one of the cities. Don't know if it's like
It'll be
Russia
Gotham.
or Germany, but he's wearing the same clothes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if it's him, whether he's in his apartment and he's just looking down, thinking that he's got a fully functional human body again.
Yeah. This is kind of like this is what I would like kind of thing, like a subconscious kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see that they're diving a little. Again, this is something you just didn't get from the original version. That you're diving more into Victor Stone as a person, and maybe if this is in his subconscious, that you're diving into more about kind of what he's all about and what kind of struggles that he's going through. Because I mean, I'm pretty positive and confident to say that he's still going to go through the struggle of him becoming Cyborg, that he's not very well accustomed to the fact that he's now more machine than he is man. So that's quite an interesting kind of take on it. And it's something to dive into a hell of a lot more than they did before anyway.
For a reason. And even if it takes you the rest of your life.
Oh, okay. So there's a couple of shots there that were in the theatrical version, which we know about with Aquaman here. But then we get this. So for those that don't know, I'm pretty sure you will know. So this is obviously the Flash, and this lovely lady is Iris West, who is the Flash's wife. So it looks like we're going to get a really good introduction into them meeting, and also the speed of the Flash again in a different setting. Obviously, we got it in the theatrical version quite a lot, in different obviously settings, but it was more kind of like battle. When obviously the main thing was when they were fighting Superman, and he was trying to keep up with Superman and all that. But this seems to be kind of more like origins of the Flash more than kind of like the battles. Obviously he's saving Iris here from a crash.
I'm intrigued to see if his character as a whole is really sort of delved out a bit more. He felt like a bit of a stupid prat.
It's a bit of a gimmick.
Yeah, but he was the sort of comedy value.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting if Snyder sort of takes his character in a totally different direction. He probably may have the odd stupid moments, but it'll be interesting to see because he's got the sort of weight of changing things.
He's for me, the Flash is a super important character, important, and they just did not do him justice in. They just did not do him justice in Justice League at all. He was made out to be this just like bumbling idiot, really, that was just didn't know what he was doing. But it made no sense in terms of the things that he said. So we know that by this point in Justice League, when he is kind of like in the suit and kind of like battle ready almost, that he's kind of like had experience in the field as Flash in his own as a superhero in his own right. But it just made him seem like it was his first day at the office every single time that he was on screen, which was really frustrating. So I'm hoping that they kind of veer away from that. And the Flash is one of those characters that he likes to make jokes, and he's the first one to crack a joke. So I do think he's going to be some form of a comedic value almost, but hopefully it's comedy value rather than kind of like just using him as a device to make fun of, to cut the tension out of things, that it's used in the right way rather than just making him into an idiot. because you can't really take a superhero kind of like seriously if you're just turning him into a buffoon, right?
Yeah.
And he's going to have his own movie. Like the Flash movie is now in production. It's only just started production now, so fingers crossed that goes through, because that's been going on for God knows how long now.
And I think that is sort of going to follow.
It's a pivotal. It's a pivot. Yeah, and it's a pivotal movie as well. Like, depending on what storyline that they use for the Flash, it could make or break kind of like what happens going forward in the DC universe. Like it could literally reset everything if they wanted to, and allow everything to crack on from the end of this, depending on how this goes. It could take it into a completely different direction. The great thing about Flash is that it has that option because of the abilities that he has, which makes him so important. And that also makes his characterization in a movie like this really pivotal, because if you don't get him right in this, how can you ever really expect to take him seriously in his own movie?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Cool. Right. Let's keep going.
Find out what that reason is.
There we go.
Right. Here we go. What do we think to this?
So the black suit, before the original had actually released, Cavill teased the suit of the black suit. He posted like a picture with the sort
of close up of the S, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then when it wasn't in the film, I was like, hang on a minute. He was teasing this like months ago. So where was it? So yeah, I'm happy they've sort of introduced it. And reading up on it, I wasn't too clued up on the black suit. I always presumed it was a sort of villain suit. But from looking into it and watching some videos, it can be deemed as more of his healing suit to try and get him back. So it's not necessarily that he's the bad Superman.
It's definitely not the same as like the black Spider-Man suit or anything like that. And I think that's what a lot of people kind of like gravitate towards, and kind of like, oh yeah, if it's a black suit, then it must be kind of like have like evil connotations. It's not at all. But again, it kind of like, it also lends into the fact that you've got, so there was that shot in the deleted scenes of the theatrical version where he walks past two suits, that he goes back to his old ship, and he walks past the suit, and it's there. So like they had it conceived in their mind within that old film to do it, but they just didn't. Like, I just don't understand why they missed that trick, because he was wearing his red and blue suit when things happened at the end of BVS, and there's a gaping hole in it, so that suit isn't functional anymore. It's wrecked. So it also lends to the fact that, if he's got another suit and it's this, then of course that's what he's going to wear as a kind of like just a logical thing. But yeah, anyway, but here we go. But yeah, I think that the parallels between this and Man of Steel, of the First Flight and stuff like that, I really quite like, because obviously this is kind of like been reborn again, and it's just kind of like the whole rebirth and taking charge and going for it. And I think that's going to be really nice, kind of like sequence to see him fly off again, because that's probably one of the nicer shots in Man of Steel, with like I said, the ground kind of like coming up and circling around him, and just as he takes off and stuff like that.
And we'll also get, which annoyed me, this was my other annoyance of the original Justice League film, was they got rid of Hans Zimmer's awesome soundtrack for Superman. Yeah, and I don't know why they did that and chose to bring in Elfman and bring out all the old stuff, but that Hans Zimmer soundtrack is awesome. Yeah,
and the sound from the soundtrack of this trailer as well, it sounds like we're going to get some amazing kind of like sound or backing tracks in this movie as well. Much better than what we got from the, like I say, I can't really say that for certain, but from the sounds of it, it sounds like we're going to get a much more kind of like on point soundtrack, rather than kind of like I mean, don't get me wrong, like in the the theatrical cut of Justice League, when they brought in kind of like Elfman's Batman into some of his scenes, and you kind of hear kind of like old school Batman Elfman theme tune, and you kind of go, oh, that's quite good. And they tried to put a new spin on it. It was quite creative, but it didn't feel like it fit. You know what I mean? It didn't feel like it had its place in this movie. It felt like it was just pulled from somewhere and just went, well, that's going to get a little bit of fan service, so let's throw that in there, rather than making it fit the tone of the film.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's crack on. Okay, so there's a lot just happened there. Let me just quickly go back to here.
Oh yes.
Okay, on Nick, let's talk me through this then.
I think this was. I probably wouldn't have noticed this if I watching this trailer. But when I watched it on the sort of TV spots, this was sort of, I don't know if it was slowed down a bit just so you could take it in a bit more. But yeah, this just looks sexy. Look at that fucking tank. That is a monster of a tank.
Some bat tank right there. Look at the size of it. I mean, for him, his scale, I think that they've done that on purpose as well, just to show the sheer size of it. Like Batman, like Ben Affleck is a big guy.
Yeah.
He looks minuscule on that tank. That tank is enormous. And for those of you that don't know where this tank is from, so this tank is it's kind of, I think it's almost identical looking from what I've seen from the TV spots from the Frank Miller's comic of the Dark Knight Returns, and it's kind of used in that storyline. So I don't think it's going to be used in the same way that it was used in that comic, but I do. I mean, I'm not too sure where it's going to be used in terms of kind of
I hope
this movie.
I hope it's not cleaning up the aftermath. I hope.
Well, that's what I've heard, but I don't want that to be true.
No, because it's such a beast of a machine. I want it to be sort of right. I want to take down shit. I thought it may be him leading up to what are the things that fly around called again?
Parademons.
Parademons. I thought it might be him leading up to going to the lair where all the parademons are sleeping, and him stood there finding them all cocooned.
Yeah.
And him just driving up in a tank because he wants to sort of protect himself.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be interested to see how they kind of get this in, because I have no idea where they're going to try and fit this in. But at the same time, there's going to be a lot of material that we've not even thought of that's going to kind of be kind of explored here. So this could just be part of a storyline that we didn't even know existed from the theatrical cut.
Yeah.
All right, what else did we see in here? So we got that, we got meeting a Flash. So what do you think this is all about here? So this is what we got from the theatrical version. With this looks like it's Cyborg trying to break the mother boxes apart, but what we get in this part here is it seems to zoom into Cyborg's eye with the Flash running into him. What do you think's happening here?
I don't know if he probably needs some function that Cyborg is able to sort of produce to help him, I don't know, go through something maybe, or get into the mother box. It could be that he's holding the mother box, Flash runs into him. I don't know, it could project him somewhere maybe.
So I've seen something that someone seems to think that this could kind of like be a nod to something to do with Flashpoint, where this is part of the Flash that we see here is a part of a different kind of like storyline where he's coming back and he has to interact with him there, which I think is a real stretch. But what I think this is that when Cyborg is separating the mother boxes, that because he's connected to the energy of the mother box and he is kind of like like almost kind of like plugged into them, he's kind of seeing what kind of power that they've had and what history that they've seen, and like almost kind of like the power of the mother boxes. So as it zooms into Cyborg's eye, I think we're going to get a kind of like a shot into what these mother boxes are fully capable of. And potentially what kind of like they've been used for in the past. So we might even get to see a little bit more of Darkseid as it goes into his eye, and it gives us a little bit more into kind of like how they've been used before, what they've been used for, and kind of like what power that they contain. Because with him being plugged into them, that's a perfect opportunity to kind of say, well, yeah, because he's jacked in, he can see him all right. The Flash in the background, I don't know. Maybe he needs a bit of a jump start to be able to kind of push them away from each other, rather than Superman coming in and pushing them away like he did in the theatrical version, which we know was a reshoot because he was all CG'd. Maybe he needs the Flash to kind of give him a bit of an electric shock up the arse or something like that, and kind of like give him a bit of a shock to kind of boost it away. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he's been taken over by the mother boxes at this point, and the power of the mother boxes is consuming him, and he needs the Flash to kind of explode some form of electricity to be able to blow them away. I don't know. But there's the part of me that when I heard that someone said that it was about Flashpoint and it could be to do with that, I was just like, no, that's a reach. That is a reach.
I did like, because someone questioned why does Cyborg keep putting the helmet on, and Snyder said, well, he's still got half a human face, so he can't just fly through normal things. So even when he's flying or he's going through destruction, he'll put his helmet on to protect the sort of human side of his face. Yeah,
and that's something that we'll see in this as well that we didn't kind of see in the last one. He's going to get like this full kind of metal face when he's kind of like war ready and stuff like that. Like you said, he's still part human, which we got in the original trailer, didn't we? We saw him flying up, and we saw that it go like cover his face, but we never actually got it in the movie, which was
took it out.
Fucking annoying. But as is that movie. Let's go.
He said,
Do you think that? How do you feel to the Speed Force here?
I'm not sure because I ain't got a clue what's going on. I know he looks like he's in Russia because he's got them Russian buildings of the sort of end scene. So if you flick back to that again, one scene. Oh no, forward again. So keep going. There. So that's him dead small there at the bottom, isn't it?
Yeah. So what you'll see is when I click to the next bit, if I can do it. Oh no, I need to go forward. Sorry. This is really difficult to. There you go. So he's still there right at the bottom there in that tiny little glow. So I think what you're getting is this is kind of zooming out as it's going. And this is the other thing that lends to the kind of like Flashpoint story, is that there is a theory out there that in part of this movie, in terms of them fighting Steppenwolf and them trying to win, that they actually fail. And part of it is the Flash jumping into the Speed Force to be able to change it up. So when he comes back, when you saw that shot of him and Cyborg, that's him kind of coming back to make things better because it never went that way originally, which I think is a cool concept, but I think it is just a bit of a reach. But,
so do you think he's jumping into this glow, is he?
Yeah, so what he's doing, I think what this is, so that's the Speed Force. So that's him building up enough energy to run into the Speed Force to be able to then kind of like manipulate time. So he can move at a speed that is so fast that he's either moving fast enough to either reverse time, push time forward, like do whatever. But I think that if that is what they're doing, then that could lend to the fact that, yes, maybe that they fail and it's part of his story that he has to get into the Speed Force to be able to reverse time a little bit to be able to fix what went wrong in the first place, which I think is a cool idea, but that does seem like a lot. Yeah. It does seem like a lot going on, doesn't it?
definitely.
But it could be very cool, and visually it would look amazing because you know Speed Force alone is that you could make stuff, and that could also be a good opportunity to kind of get into that the backstory of Barry Allen and know a little bit more about him, because obviously he hasn't got his own movie, so you only know as much about him as the movie is going to give you if you're not a fan of him or know of his past from whether you've seen it on TV shows, whether you know it through comic books. So going into the Speed Force, that could give you a good opportunity to be able to kind of like have things from different parts of his past kind of like pop out and stuff like that whilst he's choosing where to kind of jump out of the Speed Force. So it could give you a good opportunity to kind of dive into kind of his mentality and how he operates a little bit more, which again is all speculation. It could be the Speed Force. That could just be an explosion. Who knows?
Or he could be racing Superman.
Or he could be racing Superman, and that's the sonic boom.
Yeah.
It's just the finish line, mate. It's just the finish line. All right, let's keep going.
They said the age of heroes would never come again.
That bit there. So Cyborg. That was another thing that we didn't see. So he looks like he's destroying buildings here.
Mm-hmm.
So he's flying through. I don't know if that's the final battle, but it looks like he's flying through and he's either bombing or blowing up all the buildings that are around him. That looks a bit like a triangle.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea what it is. Obviously, it's very, very blurry. What do you think to this?
I like it. Obviously, you've got Steppenwolf with his electric axe. And it just looks visually nice. Pleasing.
So do you think this is in the
tunnel?
The tunnel just before Aquaman turns up and he floods it, or do you think this is kind of like the end fight between them?
I'm not sure. Could be the tunnel.
Because there is
nice, slow Snyder slow-mo.
Because there's that thing that was going around ages ago. I don't know whether or not it's part of it, but like the Wonder Woman's supposed to behead him, right?
Yeah. So she cuts off his head at the end.
Yeah. So do you think this could be part of that?
Could be the lead up to it. At the end where she's jumping or fighting him, but it could be several locations. So you got the tunnel, then you've got that sort of bridge where Steppenwolf was running across.
Yeah.
Could be that bit. So there's
could be like you said, it could be a number of places, couldn't it? But yes, looks cool though. Looks cool.
Yeah, looks very nice.
And then
they lose to the villain, and we see what the next 5 years looks like after after the loss. They have to use the time travel to go back and change the outcome. Maybe they collect some items to help.
Sounds
plausible.
That sounds like Endgame. But yeah, like I said, that could be could be part of it. Like I said, they lose. Flash has to travel back through time. Andy is explaining Endgame there. I think he's being funny. Yeah, I think that. I mean, it could be a possibility that they could lose. I don't think it's going to go to the point where that it's going to go over a period of time and they're going to copy Endgame like that. But I do think that has water that they could lose, and then he has to kind of travel back maybe an hour or so to fix it or something like that, which can show it can showcase Flash's ability. So
I think I don't think they would lose, but I think the nightmare sequence will show that they have lost.
Yeah, and how they deal with that. Yeah, because they're definitely dealing with a destroyed world there, aren't they? So
yeah,
and how we feeling about this money shot right here?
Yeah, awesome.
So good, doesn't it?
I think it's just refreshing to see Cavill without the CGI mouth.
Yeah, yeah. It's just good. It's just to see him how he was supposed to be seen. And this here is just, it's just showing you kind of like what you want from Superman. Like, he's there to party. He knows what he wants, and he's there to rumble. Do you think that's a boob tube at the back?
Potentially.
Do you think that this is kind of like one of the final shots of Steppenwolf whilst the boom tube is opening up, and Darkseid is basically seeing him fail, and he's then going to throw his head into it?
Could be, but then I've also heard that there could potentially be a scene where we get to see Superman in this suit fucking shit up and just destroying stuff under the sort of guide of Darkseid. So
you think this could be evil Superman?
Could be, yeah.
Okay.
So there could. I think there's going to be, whether that be under Batman's premonition, we get a glimpse of evil Superman, similar to what he had in BVS. Where it's just expanded on a bit more. So it could be that he's coming out of that boom tube and Darkseid's watching him fuck shit up.
See, I think I think this is good Superman. I think this is, whilst he looks quite evil there, I mean, he looks very evil there. I think that this is good Superman just fighting Steppenwolf.
Angry Superman.
Yeah, he's just doing what he needs to do to win at this point, isn't he? Like, Steppenwolf's giving him maybe a bit of a challenge, and he's like, right, you know what? I've got some laser eyes here. Let's warm up some toast on your face. And I do think that boob tube is opening up just as they are basically murking the shit out of him here, and then the boom tube is going to suck up Steppenwolf's head after it's been chopped off and he's been fried up. That's what I think it's going to be.
I do like Superman's slow-mo hair in this shot.
It's just we're gonna go back. I'm just gonna come back a couple of seconds just so we can watch it again, because it's just bloody great.
It will. It has to.
I like this little music bit.
Right. Okay. So this is the. I will say this is the controversial point of the trailer. If you haven't seen it, we will watch this bit and then go back and talk about it. So just let's go.
We live in a society where honor is a distant memory. Isn't that right, Batman?
So I've got some trivia. So the SWAT he's got on. So David Ayer wrote SWAT, the film, and originally wrote that film for Zack Snyder, and it was a full-on R-rated film. But then whoever made it said they didn't want it R-rated, and they wanted it PG-13.
Which is why we got what we got.
Yeah, Zack Snyder left. So I think that potentially could be a nod to.
See, I've when Joker was in this form was announced through the Vanity Fair article or interview or whatever you want to call it, they were talking about, and I don't know whether I read it in that interview or not, but Snyder was basically saying that SWAT vest is it's almost kind of like a sick joke that the Joker is holding on to, and on the front side of it he's got multiple badges, police badges, almost kind of like trophies, that he's collecting from potentially all the policemen he's killed. But yeah, so I think there's probably multiple reasons why he's wearing that SWAT. It also could be a nod to the end of Suicide Squad when he was wearing that SWAT kind of like uniform. There's multiple reasons why he may be wearing a SWAT vest, but I think the more realistic the reason is it's mainly for protection. This guy is just a man at the end of the day, and even though that this is a dream, this is Batman's nightmare, and Batman knows him as only a man, so it would make sense that he, whilst he is cunning, he's very clever, he's obviously good at what he does. He's still only a man, so he needs protection. So if he can get a sick joke into it like he would do, then maybe he can.
I didn't know where Andy's put that we live in a society is the stupidest line. I didn't know that line was a meme for years.
For a long time.
Loved it from all the reactions that I've seen that he's actually put that in there. So,
even Leto's reacted to that. Yeah, even Leto's reacted to that.
Loved it, haven't they?
Yeah, and I think it's been done on purpose. I think it's more of a whilst a lot of people are kind of like joking about it, saying, "Oh my god, I can't believe that they've done that without knowing." I think that they are fully aware of what they're doing there, and they've put it in there on purpose, because who's gonna make fun out of it more than the Joker?
Yeah,
is bound to make fun out of himself, right? And whilst it's still kind of quite a dark, and it seems quite serious, so I can understand why people would think that they're not kind of treating it as satire. I do think that it was put in there on purpose, because I don't think that anything that has been done accidentally.
Yeah.
But I suppose that's up for argument.
Do you think Joker is actually there? Because he talked about him being a sort of ghost of Christmas past.
Yeah, no, it's not. This is, with it being a nightmare scene, like none of this is a premonition. None of this is actually real. So this is, from what I know and what I've read, is that, like you said, he's almost kind of like the ghost of futures past. So what I think is going to be happening is, all the way through this nightmare scene, you're going to have either Joker and Batman kind of like walking through, kind of like showing what's going on, or you're going to have Joker doing a lot of voiceover, kind of explaining where things are and what things are doing and how things are going whenever you've got Batman on the screen. So I do think that Joker might be a pivotal part of the nightmare scene in terms of Batman's kind of like psychological state, because he's not going to be...
So say, for example, he's got Cyborg and Deathstroke and all them there. So say, for example, they are there, but then Joker is there, but he's not actually there. He's in Batman's head. So he looks.
I see what you mean. I see what you mean. So it's kind of like Batman. It's kind of like Batman just thinking it
with him, but he's not. He's just messing with his head.
See, now I think that he's actually there.
Okay.
I think he's actually there. And I do think that they're working together. Like, I think this is I don't think this is the first time that these guys have met in this situation. So let's say, for instance, we are 5 years in the future, or 20 years, or whenever this is set, this kind of like premonition. I don't think this is the first time that they've met in this situation. I think that this is kind of like a like one of their meetups that they've had, and this is how they just go. This is how they converse with each other, and this is how they just, because they've got so much history together, that all of their interactions are really, really intense, because whilst they know they have to work together to do what they need to do, they still fucking hate each other to their core. So there's always going to be so much tension and so much kind of like pent up aggression, and they're always going to hate each other. So I don't know.
Do you think it's just going to be verbal, or do you think we're going to see all of them battle?
No, it's definitely going to be more psychological. You're not going to see Batman and Joker fight in this. If any, I can almost kind of guarantee that you're not going to see them fight in this.
What about Deathstroke?
You might see Deathstroke lay down, but I don't think he's going to fight with Batman.
Oh, no, I mean, so they could all be stood there and going after parademons or what.
Oh, yeah, you might see Deathstroke murk some parademons, yeah.
Do you think you see Joker in action taking some parademons down?
You might see him shoot some. I don't think you're going to see any kind of... I think Joker's very clinical in terms of about what fights that he gets into. He won't get into a fight unless he has to. So, facing an army of parademons, he might shoot a few. He's probably more likely to run away. He's not that type, is he? He's not the type to go head in to battle like Batman would, or like Deathstroke would, because at the end of the day they are kind of like they're Batman warriors, that they live for the fight, whereas Joker is more the psychological game. Question for you here: In part of when he says we live in a society, he says something and it sounds almost kind of lispy.
Yeah.
Do you think that he's got his teeth?
No, I think I said it to you before. I think he's got his gummies out. I think he's got no teeth. I think he's just got
And
gum.
why do you think that is? Do you think that that is because Batman knocked them out, or because he's lost them some other way?
I think he had the grills because Batman had already knocked them out.
Mm-hmm.
And in the future, he's just took them out, and he's got no teeth at all.
Yeah.
I think he would look creepy with no teeth.
So let's just so that people can kind of see what I'm talking about. Is when it's when he says distant memory. Let's see if you.
Where honor is a distant memory.
I don't know if it's reaching or not, but that sounds kind of
I think
lispy.
that's a dig from Snyder to Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
A little slight dig to say, look, honor's a distant memory. You didn't want this film made. You still don't want the film being made. Warner Brothers haven't promoted it. I don't think they even put the trailer up. And then I think as soon as this came out, the Godzilla trailer was released straight away.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's a little nod to Warner Brothers. And on a recent interview, Snyder has said Warner Brothers have no interest whatsoever to sort of follow up with Snyder's vision.
Yeah.
But that's not to say whether AT&T or HBO Max want to
AT&T are pulling the strings, aren't they? So the reason that this is happening is because the powers that be, which are AT&T because they own Warner, people want it to happen there. So ultimately, whether Warner want it or not, AT&T will be pulling the strings. So at the end of the day, the thing that talks most is money. So regardless of whether or not they want it or whether or not they think it's going to be a pain in the arse or they'll have to backtrack, if this makes more money, then they have to go with it. Like they have to do something with it.
I think what's really helped it now is the worldwide release all on the same day.
Mate, I was so excited for that. Like, because I was thinking like I'm gonna have, because I really want to support this because I want it. I want this to be like, I've wanted this ever since we watched the theatrical version. And I want it to be successful. I want it to make money. So I want to pay for it. Like I want to actually buy it rather than kind of like have to find a stream of it and watch it kind of like elsewhere. So I was kind of getting a little bit kind of like, oh my God, like I feel like I'm then going to have to wait if it's not a worldwide release, because we know that obviously it's releasing on HBO Max, but that's not out in Europe. That's not out in Asia or any of those places like that. So it was kind of like, I think a lot of people were worrying about the fact that, one, it's going to get spoiled, but two, a lot of people are going to watch it through kind of like illegal means or streaming means, which means that it's not going to make as much money. But now obviously that it's got a worldwide release on different streaming platforms, it gives it a much better opportunity to be able to do better, because people are going to be more inclined to actually pay for it rather than just stream it somewhere.
Yeah. AT&T, Andy, were the ones who sort of forced Warner to go ahead with it. So yeah, Warner Brothers have probably given Snyder the money, probably not very happy with it, but they've probably been forced to give him the money by AT&T. So yeah, they have given him the money, but probably regretfully, because they've had their sort of hands tied with it.
But yeah, so so obviously we've gone through the trailer, we've given a kind of like breakdown and stuff. What did you think overall to the trailer? What did you think to it?
I think tonally, it does feel like a totally different film.
Mm-hmm.
I think it broadens it out a bit more, so you can see the expansion of different avenues. So you've got the nightmare sequence, you've got the Darkseid and the Amazonians, the Atlanteans. So I think all of them sort of avenues are going to be explored in more detail.
Mm-hmm.
It feels darker. Yeah, and you've got a few scenes which are similar or the same as the sort of theatrical, but I think the new ones sort of outweigh them ones a lot more.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think I echo what you say. Like it does feel like they've gone out their way to make sure that in this version of what we're getting, that it's very much that what we got originally was nothing close to what the original concept was for it. Because I suppose people have to remember, a lot of people are shitting on this, saying that it shouldn't happen, and Zack Snyder's throwing his dummy out and stuff like this. Like this, what we got wasn't what was originally conceived. Like what we got was part of what was originally conceived, and then it was just completely like cut up and just. It was just Joss Whedon's take on what he thinks should happen. And the studio went with it because because maybe he had some clout from Avengers and stuff. I don't know. But this is what was originally conceived. So this isn't the remake. This is the original. So I feel like they've gone out of their way to make sure that we know that this is definitely what was supposed to be done in the first place, and it is very, very much a different movie than what we've got. I think in terms of overall plot points, it's going to be the same. So, you're going to get the death of Superman at the start. You're going to get the team kind of coming together. You're going to the fight in the mother boxes. Like the main plot points are going to be the same. We know that. But what happens in between, I think, is going to be vastly different. And in terms of characterization, I think you're going to get a hell of a lot more in this. And that excites me a lot more. But like you said, yes, it does that very well. I think visually, obviously, you get what you get when you're going to watch something from Zack Snyder. You're always going to get some visual artistry, and that delivers. The only thing that for me that I think this trailer fell flat on was putting the Joker in it. And I usually am, especially Leto's Joker, I'm usually his biggest fan. I'm usually an advocate for Joker, but I think that it was riding on the coattails of the Vanity Fair. I mean, obviously they had the idea, that a scheduling idea of how that was all going to work out, but I think that because of where the Joker was placed in this in this trailer, and the kind of the interview and the release of the pictures of Joker a couple of days before it, I think that it got a lot of people hyped too much for the Joker rather than anything else in it. I'm not saying that people weren't talking about anything else in it, but when you watched a lot of the reactions and when you saw a lot of what the discussions were about this trailer, a lot of it was focused heavily on the Joker. And a lot of thumbnails with the Joker, and it was always talking about the Joker. This, or what do you think he's going to do? And realistically, I don't think he's going to be that much of a big part of this movie. And I think this is the thing that annoys me about it. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but the thing that annoys me about it is that they did this with Suicide Squad. They went so hard on the Joker, saying that this is so much of a selling point for this movie. Look at what he's going to do. Look how different he's going to be. And it got people really amped and really pumped for what was going to be. And then you got nothing, and people were so annoyed because you got like 10 minutes worth of Joker. And I feel like that's potentially what you're getting, the equivalent. You're going to get that in this movie, because the movie's going to be so long. He's not going to be in it. He's only going to be in the nightmare sequence. Now that nightmare sequence could be 20 minutes long, which means that you're not going to get 20 minutes of Joker, or it could be an hour long. So you might get half an hour of him, but that's half an hour out of 4 hours. So he's not going to be pivotal to the overall plot point. And I think ending on the Joker in this trailer, it kind of promises you something that they can't deliver on, which annoys me, because people are then going to be pissed about the fact that he's not in it, or they're going to moan that Leto was shit again because he wasn't in it. And it just annoys me more than anything. But other than that, I loved it.
I think there will be more. I think Leto's discussed that there potentially could be more. So I think if this is a success, you're potentially going to get that Affleck series or something with with Leto. But I think Andy's just put it on there. People get a hard on for the Joker.
Yeah, and I know I'm very aware of that. And Joker is a seller. Like if you put the Joker and like said Cyborg in the same picture, people are going to go to the Joker. But it's not the right thing to do for the movie. Is my argument is that it's not the right thing to do for the movie. It's not the right thing to do for the character because the Joker's got a hard rep from when Leto's concerned because that people didn't like his portrayal of it and people didn't like the fact that he was kind of like touted to be this like big character in Suicide Squad and he wasn't, and they blamed Leto and his version of the Joker for it when actually it was the studio that just cut him out of it. And I feel like that could happen again in this movie because they're kind of like highlighting the Joker and it's ending on the Joker. So a lasting impression is going to be of the Joker because it's the very last thing you see. And he's barely going to be in the movie.
You know what? I think it's weird that he got slated so bad for the Suicide Squad that people have lost their shit now in a positive way with him being in the trailer for the Justice League.
Yeah, he's got the difference in people's reaction to him in this movie than it was to to Suicide Squad is like night and day. Like there's still a bit of hate for it, saying, "Oh, it just looks like the Crow," or he just looks like a whatever. Yeah, I mean, I even said that. I said he looks like a butcher. I wasn't too convinced on his overall look because I really quite liked the aesthetic of Suicide Squad Joker. I quite like the difference of him. But a lot of people are kind of like gravitating towards praising what he looks like, and I think that people want him to do well because he's got a second go at it. Whereas I think a lot of people know that potentially it wasn't his fault that it didn't work from Suicide Squad because they cut him out of so much, and he got a bit of a shit rep for it. So maybe it is justice for him as well. And everyone likes a justice story, especially when you're watching Justice League.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what you've got to remember is this is probably the first time a film's managed to do this, where it's been a massive rally of fans constantly asking for release the Snyder Cut, release it. And then they did a sort of suicide prevention charity for Snyder's daughter, where I think they've sort of made 500,000, 500,000 I think they're on now, and all of that is from the fans. So yeah, I think regardless of whether the film's shit or not, the positive that's come out of it is the 500,000 that's gone to suicide prevention to try and uplift this in a positive way. So obviously he had a shit circumstance that happened to him on the original film. And his wife Deborah, on an interview I watched the other day, she said that just without having to reach out, the fans did all this by themselves. They created the sort of fund to put it towards the suicide prevention. They've put everything in hand to try and get the film made. So I think it's definitely one to sort of go down in history to say, look, this is down to the fans. This isn't just a normal director's cut release.
Yeah, and this definitely wouldn't happen if it didn't have that backing of the release, the Snyder Cut that was just going on for so long and so hard. Yeah, and it just goes to show that it can work. So it doesn't mean
get an additional 100 million.
Yeah,
to do more scenes and then get another theatrical as well as a streaming service is unheard of.
Yeah, I mean, I just hope that it doesn't happen everywhere for everything. You know what I mean? Because it's happened this time. And rightly so it should happen, because I think that this is the right thing to do to release the what should have been released. But, when you talk about other things and now you get like second go round and stuff like that, I just don't want people to jump on the bandwagon of this for everything now. And they go, oh, release this or release that because it was shit. Like, it doesn't, you can't get a second time round at a shit movie just because it's shit. This was a very different circumstance, and it was, what we got was very, very disappointing, and it was a mishmash of a lot of shit for a lot of reasons. And if they had the opportunity to be able to fix it, then they've taken it. But I don't think that should mean that they should do that with every movie.
Do you think though the Ayer cut is coming?
I'm in two minds about it, if I'm being honest now.
I think it is coming because the digital artists that have been doing all of Snyder's films have said they've been doing it for the Suicide Squad. So all the parademons, everything else in terms of Steppenwolf's look will be in the Ayer cut, which will come out. But I think also with this, with what's happened, I think it will give some companies two minds in terms of messing around with films.
Well, Suicide Squad's a perfect example of the fact that if you outsource your editing to the wrong people, you're just going to get a shit show. Like that movie was given the editing. The editing of the entire movie was given to a company that specializes in editing trailers, so they can edit a fantastic trailer. But doesn't mean you can edit a movie. And look what we got.
Well, it's all the same people that were Wonder Woman 84, Suicide Squad, Justice League. It was all that hierarchy in Warner Brothers that wanted that route, and now they're out. Hopefully, it can go a bit sort of in the darker route, which they originally should have, because the people who did them three films needed to be sacked because they drilled it into the ground. And I think when people watch the Snyder Cut, I think what Warner Brothers are going to worry about is that, well, they won't worry about it, but you're going to get that fan backlash where they're going to go, why the fuck didn't you release this?
Yeah. It was a case of that I think the Warner Brothers were felt like they had to stick to the schedule that was in place, and they gave a release date, and they pushed it back originally, and then they gave a release date, and then obviously Snyder had to duck out because of personal circumstances, and they'd already kind of like committed to a release date, and they were just not moving on it, so they had to bring in someone to change it, and rather than just wait and get the movie that we should have got, they decided that they've probably invested too much money into it at that point, and they said, we want our money back.
I think they just didn't give a fuck.
Yeah, and that's my point there. That's my point, that all they were thinking about is, I just want my money back. Yeah. So we'll release what we release, and if it's shit, it's shit. And I think it shows, because the theatrical version of this, it looks like it's two movies, and because it looks like it's two movies stitched together. Visually, it looks horrible in places, like the reshoots and stuff like that. They just look horrible, and it just goes to show there was no real care and attention taken when reshooting that movie or editing it or putting it together, because it just looks awful. And it just goes to show that all they wanted to do was stick to that release date, so they know that they would be able to recuperate whatever money they sunk into it, because they know that it was never going to do as well as what it would have done, because Snyder's no longer at the helm of it. So all they wanted to do was just recover some losses, and if they make a little bit of money, great.
I think they got greedy. I think they thought, we've got the first Justice League film, Batman, Superman, we've got the whole crew. It's being directed by Joss Whedon, who did Avengers. This is going to be our Avengers, and regardless, we're going to make a fucking shit ton of money. But then it backfired on them, and it was the
shit.
lowest fucking DC film money making one they had. So yeah, I think they got greedy, thought that regardless of how shit the film is, it's going to make a bucket ton of cash.
Yeah.
Of which
so the things that weren't in this trailer, then let's just quickly discuss things that weren't in this trailer. So we know from interviews with Snyder and pictures that he's shown us that we get Martian Manhunter.
Yeah.
We know that we're getting Deathstroke.
Yeah.
How do you think they're going to play out? We also know that there's going to be more than one Lantern in this movie, right?
I don't think we'll get Green Lantern.
You don't think we'll get Hal Jordan or anything like that?
I'd be surprised if we do, but I don't think we'll get Green Lantern. So
because there was a Green Lantern in the last one, but he just got murked straight away, and then the ring just flew out of it.
one of the I watched something last week, and they talked about that Snyder had filmed a Lantern scene with a stunt double from like a wide shot, and he was then going to go back to California to hire an actor to be Green Lantern, and then do sort of fill shots after that. But because of what happened, he didn't get to do that, and I think there's some form of contract to say that when a film's finished, you then can't bring someone in. It's something to do with some actors guild contracts things. So he potentially can't do it. He could do. He could like do it as a cheeky surprise, but what I was reading about, it's something to do with contractually. He couldn't bring someone in to do the Green Lantern.
What do you think about the old rumors about Reynolds popping up as Green Lantern?
No, Reynolds won't be coming in. 100%. No. Yeah, if he does, I'll be like, I think it would take, as much as I love Reynolds, I think he wouldn't fit in.
Yeah, it'd be ridiculous, wouldn't it?
Yeah, with watching that, his sort of Lantern wouldn't fit in unless they changed it fully tonally and what have you. Yeah, he definitely won't be in it.
No, I agree. I don't think he should be in it at all. What do you think about Deathstroke then? Because from what I know about it, so obviously we're going to get Deathstroke in the Nightmare scene because of the different aesthetic that he's got, but we're also going to get to see a bit more Deathstroke in terms of the Lex Luthor breakout.
I think he looks better than he did in the original. I think the original, he just looked like someone in cosplay.
So do you think that Mohawk is only going to be Nightmare, or do you think that that's going to be what he looks like every time?
No, I think that'll be Nightmare.
Just Nightmare.
Yeah. I think he'll probably have that sort of original look that we saw before. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that look that we see on the picture is going to be the Nightmare look for him. Mm-hmm. I hope he gets to do something. Deathstroke can't just be there to look nice. Cool.
Like I said, I think the breakout of Lex Luthor is going to be fleshed out a little bit more. So we're going to get to see how they go in there. Some nice, sexy bit of action from Deathstroke and stuff like that. So I think we'll get to see him flex them muscles a little bit. So that should be nice to see.
If Snyder Cut is successful, what would you like to see sort of piggyback on the back of it? If this makes a shit ton of money on the streaming and Warners are like, yeah, we can hear you loud and clear, we can see that you want more, what would you like as a spin-off? Or
well, the obvious to me would be Batman.
Yeah,
I mean I can never want enough Batman anyway, but I really, really fucking love Affleck's Batman. I really, really love it. I think he's one of the best Batman we've had. Like that type of Bruce, that age of Bruce Wayne, and this type of Batman is very different to any other type of Batman that we've had, and I think it sits well with me anyway. But for me, the answer to that question really depends on the interaction between him and the Joker. And when I say that, because that if you're going to have, let's say, a Batman TV show, you're going to need to include the Joker. And if this version of the Joker is set in terms of Leto, if they don't gel together, or if something doesn't feel right between them, it's never going to work. And you can't really have Batman without the Joker, and you can't really have the Joker without Batman. So if they work together really well and bounce off of each other really well, which I think they will do. They're both really good actors, so there's no reason why they couldn't. I would love to see like a Batman spin-off TV show that allows you to dive into more of this character and kind of potentially work in more of a Joker storyline as well. And then you could introduce, bigger characters. Or you could put Deathstroke into the mix as well. Deathstroke's a Batman villain that he tangles with quite often. And you've already got these characters already cast. You don't need to recast them. You don't need to find someone else. And there's a lot of rich material that you could use with all of these characters in there. So I would love to see a Batman TV show, greenlit by HBO. I mean, HBO create incredible TV shows. They know how to create TV shows.
What route would you want them to go with the Affleck series? Would you want them to do his original idea with Deathstroke and Deathstroke? I think he said it was a bit like the film The Game with Michael Douglas, where Deathstroke had sort of
absolutely
fucked up Bruce, and it was a bit of an asylum route. Or would you like it to have a bit more of a focus on the relationship of him and Joker and going back to the death of Robin?
You could blend it. I mean, this is the good thing about having a TV show. Like, each series could focus on a different thing, couldn't it? Like, if the series really took off, and let's say that they got, let's say, at least 3 series out of it, you could have one series that focused solely on his and Deathstroke's kind of like relationship and how they tangle that. You could have the other series that could focus on him dealing with the death of Robin and how that came about. So it could be kind of like a series of flashbacks and flash forwards and things like that with the Joker. But I think the one thing that I think needs to be constant within Batman's life is the Joker. He is the only constant kind of like main, he's his arch nemesis, so he has to be a constant throughout, which is why he has to work. He has to work in this. So if it doesn't work between him and Leto and things don't feel right, then
I think that's like Andy and Alex.
Exactly. They need to work. But I think, like I said, if they don't work together, you're going to be hard pressed to be able to get greenlit for anything Batman that doesn't have an element of Joker in it, because you don't have Batman without the Joker. It's impossible. You can have little storylines with Batman without Joker because he has got other villains, but what it boils down to is you need an arch nemesis, and the Joker's there. So I would like a combination of it all, if I'm being honest.
What would you prefer, a Affleck series or a Justice League 2?
Well, it all depends, doesn't it? That depends on what comes before. So you've got Aquaman 2, you've got The Flash, you've got Shazam, you've got Black Adam, you've got all these other things that could potentially all then tie into a dealing with the Justice League, because they're all in this universe. So it's hard to be able to say, yes, give me, if I had a choice, Batman.
Hell yes.
Batman, because I'm a Batman. I will always I'd always choose Batman over any of them. I'd always choose Batman. But yeah, Justice League 2, there's a lot of moving parts, isn't there? That aren't even, that we have no idea about yet. So it all really depends.
They're doing a series of Lanterns. What was it, Green Corps or whatever it is?
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing a series of that. What about a spin-off of Martian Manhunter?
I mean, I think you could, but I don't think he's got a bit enough of a following. He if you've watched it, that he was quite a big part in the CW Supergirl series, and he was kind of like a supporting character within that. But I just don't think that he's got the kind of like widespread kind of reach that everyone else has. Like you would probably be more likely to get a spin-off Cyborg series than you would Martian Manhunter. Or you're probably more likely to get even if you're going down an even darker route, you're probably more likely to get a spin-off Deathstroke series than you are Martian Manhunter.
If John Cena can get a Peacemaker series, anything can happen.
It's John Cena. I don't think that's got anything to do with the character. I think that's got everything to do with it being who he is. John Cena sells, man. He just sells.
Yeah, he does. He's good.
But yeah, then you've got the Suicide Squad as well that is coming out as well. So there's a lot of moving parts in DC at the minute. So it's hard to know whether or not Justice League 2 is something that's worth considering at the minute, like with everything else going on, because obviously Darkseid's still going to be out there, so you would assume he's still the big bad.
Yeah.
And whether or not they just kind of like forget everything else and just carry on this storyline, you could conceivably do. It would be a bit, I think it would be a bit ill-advised to do that when you've got so many other things going on that you could pull into or pull from. So I don't know. I don't know.
I'm intrigued to see how well it does. I think it will do well. I think there's going to be people that are going to love it regardless. There'll be people that will shit on it regardless.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're going to get that love-hate relationship regardless of how, even if it was the best film in the world, there'll be someone who'd be like, I prefer the theatrical.
Yeah.
I
mean, you're never going to please everyone. Even if they want this to work, they might not like it. So, people look at it objectively. I mean, people to this day still don't think Shawshank Redemption's a good movie, but, it's not one of the best movies ever made. So you're always going to get people that don't like something just because they don't like it. So the main factor into this is whether or not it makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they've almost kind of sealed how much money they're going to be making through, obviously, like HBO Max, and they can make some kind of like projections based on subscriptions and stuff like that. But now they've got like worldwide release, they could probably project a little bit better in terms of what their revenue is going to be off of it from purchases, whether or not it's going to be, depends on what kind of like platform that it gets released on. So they're probably going to be a bit more clued up now in terms of what they're more likely to make, now that they know that they've got a worldwide release and how much it's going to be released for and what platforms it's going to be on and options that you've got to watch it and stuff. So
they're doing a lot of merchandise.
Mm-hmm.
So whether that be T-shirts or whatever, but them, I forgot what the company's name is now, but they're really expensive statues.
Hot Toys.
Not Hot Toys. I think it's Iron something, and they make them to like detail. I think it's like Iron Toys or something along them lines. But they're doing full scales of like Steppenwolf, Black Suit, Superman, and yeah, and there's also a food company who's doing like a mother box meal deal thing. So they're going a bit more.
They're going hard on it.
Yeah, Ironhead Studios, that's what it's called. They do like realistic statues of figures from these superheroes. But yeah, I think they're just going a bit more than you would think. If it's just a one-off, you just go, right, okay, it's being released. Why would we release figures and do a lot of merchandise and stuff like that if it was just going to be?
Yeah, I mean, they have to believe in their own source, don't they? They have to believe in their own source. So they're gonna go hard on it. They're gonna treat it like a standard release of any movie, and you get merchandising from any movie. So, I think that they're doing it the right way. Don't treat it as a gimmick. Treat it as a release.
I think with some of that though, I think that's more Snyder's end though. I don't think that's Warner doing all that.
Well, if he's got the clout and he's got the ability to do it, then yeah, crack on.
But I think just the fact alone that he's managed to get his name on the film, because I think there was legal.
I do think that that's probably him, because I do think that he likes the attention. The one thing I will say about Zack Snyder, and DC fandom kind of like proved this, that it was just like an arse licking session in that segment towards him. It was just like how good he is and stuff like that. So I do think this is him kind of like getting the opportunity to be able to put his name to something, and he's kind of like, just it's like a dick swinging thing. I do think there is a bit of that to it.
Do you think they will fade out the original film?
No, you know what? If anything, it will probably make it more like a cult classic.
Yeah,
I think it will make it more a desirable object. It so a lot of people when they because I watched a video on this ages ago when it was released. The Snyder Cut thing was released. It was saying it was going to be. A lot of people went and threw away their Blu-ray, their DVD that they had of it, of the original, because they knew that they were getting this. But then a lot of people were then were thinking, actually, why have I just done that? Because I could have something here that if they stop making it, then there's only a limited quantity of it, so it becomes a more desirable object because of the reasons that the whole thing came about, because it's a kind of a storytelling piece, really, isn't it? It's a story of redemption in terms of Zack Snyder, and having the two kind of like physical objects as proof of that makes the older one, or the lesser known one, more of a desirable object. So in fact, it actually could be more valuable than the new one. I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about obviously in years to come, should they ever hold any value and stuff like that. But it could be kind of like something that you have in your collection because they stopped making it, because people stopped considering it something that was even there.
True.
So, I mean, I never bought it, but it's not worth buying. So, but again, it might be something that's worth having in the future. Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Cool.
I think we're done.
Should we leave it there?
I think we've wrapped up. Is that, like you said, guys? Thanks very much for joining in on the chat and kind of like listening to us waffle on about our thoughts about this. The Zack Snyder's I was going to call it the Snyder Cut then. Zack Snyders Justice League. God, it's a mouthful. It's like 25 days or something like that before it comes out. So obviously we'll be hearing within the next 25 days where we're going to be getting it over here, in Europe. Obviously in America, where you're going to get it from. You're going to get it on HBO Max. We're still yet to know where we're going to get it. I think it's probably going to be either a Now TV or an Amazon thing, maybe. I'm not too sure.
Sky
probably, because a lot of HBO is through Sky Atlantic, isn't it? So it might be a Now TV thing. It could be an Amazon thing. I don't really know. It might be multiple platforms. Who knows? But I'm sure we'll find out within the next 25 days anyway. But yeah, we're excited for it. We hope you are too. And I suppose we can't wait to come back after we've watched it to review the entire movie. God, that's going to be a long review.
Fucking 8-hour fucking stream.
That's going to be a long review. We might even have to chunk that down into a couple of videos. That's going to be a long ass review, but I'm looking forward to it. I know you are, Nick. Obviously, we've been wanting this to happen for a very long time now, so it's something we're very much looking forward to. I'm going to enjoy every moment of the 4 hours of it. So, thank you all for listening to us and getting involved in the chat. We appreciate it. Is there anything else you wanted to add into that, Nick?
No, just echo what you said. Appreciate you all coming on, even though we're just reviewing a trailer. So thank you very much, and we're
hoping that normal service will resume. Obviously, we've had a couple of weeks out, but hoping normal service will resume in terms of the lives. So we'll let you know through the regular channels, through Instagram, when we're next going to be live and what the topics and the discussion will be. So we hope you can join us then too. But we'll leave it there for now and say have a very good Sunday evening and have a good week. Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.